I'm Jenna Wallace, 28 years old, a single mom, and I nearly lost everything during one bitterly cold winter in Brooklyn. That day, I brought my 6-year-old son to the only job interview that could save us from being evicted. I walked into the conference room and found myself face to face with the interviewer, the father of my child, the man who vanished from my life 7 years ago. What do you think happened next? Before I share the rest of this unbelievable story, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever fought through hard times for your family. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The eviction notice crinkled in my pocket as I smoothed down my only interview blouse for the third time. October wind rattled the windows of our cramped Brooklyn apartment, and I could see my breath in the morning air. The heat had been shut off 2 days ago. "Mommy, why are you wearing your pretty shirt?" Liam asked from his spot on our threadbare couch, his dinosaur book balanced on his knees. "I have an important meeting today, baby." I forced a smile, checking my phone again. 8:47 a.m. The babysitter should have been here 20 minutes ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria. "So sorry, Jenna, my kid's sick, can't make it today." My stomach dropped. The interview at Fairchild and More was at 10 a.m. sharp in Manhattan. This job, executive assistant at one of New York's most prestigious law firms, was my only shot at keeping us off the street. The pay would triple what I made waiting tables at the diner. I looked at Liam, who had gone back to tracing the outline of a brachiosaurus with his finger. 6 years old and already reading above grade level. His teacher said he was gifted, but I could barely afford to keep him in public school, let alone anything that would nurture his potential. "Hey, buddy," I said, my voice catching. "How would you like to come with Mommy to her meeting?" He looked up, those gray-blue eyes I tried not to think about too often, sparkling with interest. "Can I bring my book?" "Of course, but you have to promise to be very, very quiet. Can you do that?" He nodded solemnly, already packing his little backpack with the seriousness of someone much older. Sometimes I forgot he was only 6. He'd had to grow up fast, my boy. Too fast. The subway ride felt endless. I held Liam's hand tightly as we navigated the morning rush, my resume folder clutched in my other hand. Every jostle threatened to wrinkle my clothes or disturb the careful makeup I'd applied to hide the dark circles under my eyes. "Mommy, that man's newspaper says something about Fairchild," Liam said, pointing at a Wall Street Journal headline about Fairchild and More winning a massive corporate lawsuit. "Fairchild," I corrected gently. "That's where we're going." The building loomed above us, all gleaming glass and marble. The lobby alone was bigger than our entire apartment building. I signed in at security, my hands shaking slightly as I wrote our names. "Ma'am, is the child with you?" the guard asked, eyeing Liam skeptically. "Yes, the babysitter canceled. He'll be quiet." The guard frowned, but waved us through. In the elevator, I knelt down to Liam's level, straightening his little sweater, the one without holes, saved for special occasions. "Remember, baby, quiet as a mouse. Mommy really needs this job." "I know," he whispered back, squeezing my hand. "Don't worry, Mommy, it'll be okay." The elevator dinged at the 34th floor. The reception area was intimidating. Leather and chrome, fresh flowers that probably cost more than my weekly groceries. The receptionist, a polished woman with perfect nails, looked at Liam with barely concealed disapproval. "Jenna Wallace for the 10 a.m. interview," I said, lifting my chin. "One moment." She picked up the phone. "Mr. Fairchild, your 10 o'clock is here." "Yes, sir. Yes, she has a child with her." My cheeks burned. I could feel other candidates' eyes on us. Women in designer suits without the complication of children in tow. "Mommy," Liam whispered. "That lady has the same color nails as my teacher." "Shh, baby." "Mr. Fairchild will see you now. Conference room 3, down the hall to your right." I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked down that endless hallway. Liam's hand was warm in mine, his dinosaur book tucked under his arm. The conference room's door was heavy. I pushed it open, prepared to apologize immediately for bringing my son, prepared to beg for understanding. But the words died in my throat. Behind the massive table sat Graham Fairchild. Not just any Graham, my Graham, the one from Vermont College 7 years ago. the one with the same gray-blue eyes as the little boy whose hand I was holding. Time stopped. The folder slipped from my hand, papers scattering across the floor. Graham's face went through a series of expressions: professional courtesy, recognition, shock, confusion. Jenna? His voice was deeper now, more authoritative, but underneath I heard the 20-year-old who used to read me poetry in the campus coffee shop. Before I could speak, before I could run, before I could do anything, Liam let go of my hand. He walked forward, tilting his head the way he did when he was working out a puzzle. "Daddy?" The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Graham's coffee cup slipped from his hand, brown liquid spreading across the pristine table. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. "Liam, no, baby," I started, but my son was already standing in front of Graham, studying him with those identical eyes. "You look like the picture," Liam said matter-of-factly. "The one Mommy keeps in the jewelry box, but older." Graham's hands gripped the edge of the table. He looked from Liam to me, his face pale. "Jenna, what is he?" "We should go," I said, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry, this was a mistake. Come on, Liam." "No?" Graham stood abruptly, his chair rolling backward. "No, you can't just—" "Is he mine?" The question I'd dreaded for 6 years. I could lie. I should lie. But Liam was looking between us now. Too smart. Understanding too much. "Can we not do this here?" I whispered. "The picture has Mommy in a pretty dress," Liam continued, oblivious to the tension. "She's laughing. Were you making her laugh?" Graham's face crumbled at that. I remembered that photo. The spring formal, our senior year, 2 weeks before he disappeared from my life. "Liam, sweetie, can you sit over there and read your book?" I pointed to a chair by the window. "The grown-ups need to talk." He looked disappointed but obeyed, climbing into the leather chair that dwarfed his small frame. I watched him open his dinosaur book, but his eyes kept darting to Graham. 7 years, Graham said quietly. "He's 6? I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "You never told me." At that, anger flared in my chest. "I tried. God, Graham, I tried. You vanished. Your phone was disconnected. Your email bounced back. Even your roommate said he didn't know where you'd gone. My father had a heart attack. I had to leave school, take over his part of the business. For 7 years?" My voice cracked. "I was 21, pregnant and alone. I went to your dorm room and found it empty. Do you know what that felt like?" Graham ran his hands through his hair. Still dark, though now with hints of silver at the temples. Success had aged him in a way that poverty had aged me. Different kinds of tired written on our faces. "I didn't know," he said. "Jenna, I swear I didn't know. I wrote letters to your parents' house. They came back unopened. We moved. Dad's heart attack. We lost the house. Everything was chaos." He looked at Liam again, and I saw something break in his expression. "What's his full name?" "Liam Thomas Wallace." "Thomas, after your father." He remembered. Of course he remembered. Graham had always been good with details. It's probably what made him such a successful lawyer now. He paused, struggling. "Can I talk to him?" "He thinks his father is dead," I said flatly. It was easier than explaining abandonment to a 3-year-old. Graham flinched. I didn't know." "I know that now." I was so tired. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me hollow. "Look, we'll go. Forget this happened. You have your life here and we have ours. My son thinks I'm dead." Each word was carefully pronounced, like he was testing their weight. "My son. God, Jenna." From across the room, Liam piped up. "Are you talking about my daddy? Mommy says he loved us but had to go to heaven. Is that true?" We both froze. Graham's assistant knocked and peered in. "Mr. Fairchild, your 10:30 is here." "Cancel it," he said without looking away from Liam. "Cancel everything today." "Sir?" "Everything, Melissa." She retreated, and Graham moved slowly toward Liam, like approaching a wild animal. He knelt down beside the chair, and I held my breath. "What are you reading about?" Graham asked. "Dinosaurs. This one's a Pachycephalosaurus. It means thick-headed lizard. They used their heads like battering rams." Liam showed him the page. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Graham glanced at me, then back at Liam. "I used to have a whole collection of dinosaur books when I was your age." "Really?" Liam's face lit up. "What was your favorite?" "Triceratops. I liked that they protected their families." The irony wasn't lost on me. I sank into a chair watching them interact. Liam was already chattering about herbivores versus carnivores, and Graham was listening with an expression of wonder and pain that made my chest tight. This wasn't how I'd imagined this moment, when I'd allowed myself to imagine it at all. The DNA test came back positive, not that anyone really doubted it. Looking at them side by side, Graham in his tailored suit and Liam in his secondhand sweater was like seeing the same person at different points in time. What I hadn't expected was Margaret Fairchild. She swept into the mediator's office like winter itself, all sharp angles and designer black. Graham's mother had the kind of presence that made you aware of every flaw in your appearance. I tugged at my department store blazer and tried not to feel like the girl from the wrong side of town, which, of course, I was. "So," she said, not bothering with pleasantries, "you're the one claiming my son fathered your child." "Mother," Graham warned. "The DNA test confirmed it," I said, proud when my voice didn't shake. She waved a manicured hand dismissively. "Tests can be arranged, but let's say, for argument's sake, that Liam is Graham's. What exactly are you hoping to gain from this revelation?" I didn't come looking for Graham. This was an accident. How convenient. My son is finally making a name for himself, engaged to Caroline Duvall, Senator Duvall's daughter, and suddenly a secret child appears. "That's enough," Graham said sharply. "Jenna didn't even know who I was when she came for the interview." Margaret's smile was cold. "Graham, darling, you're naive. She probably orchestrated the whole thing. These people always want something." "These people?" I stood, shaking. "I've raised Liam alone for 6 years. I've worked double shifts, gone without meals so he could eat, slept on the floor so he could have the bed. I didn't ask for anything from your family. And yet here we are, discussing custody arrangements." She opened her briefcase, pulling out a document. "We're prepared to offer you a settlement. $50,000 to relocate somewhere quieter. Liam would have visitation with Graham, of course, summers and holidays. We'd ensure he attends the best schools." I stared at the number on the paper. 50,000. More money than I'd ever seen. It could buy us a real home, somewhere with heat that worked and windows that closed properly. Liam could have his own room, new clothes, birthday parties with actual presents. "You want to buy my son. We want to provide him with opportunities," Margaret corrected. "The Fairchild name opens doors. He'd have tutors, private schools, college fully paid. Can you offer him that?" I thought of Liam doing homework at the diner while I worked, eating free leftover pie for dinner again. Thought of him pretending not to want the toys other kids had, being too understanding for his age. "Jenna," Graham said quietly, "you don't have to decide now." But Margaret wasn't finished. "There's also the matter of your stability. Single mother, irregular employment, facing eviction." "How do you know about that?" Her smile widened. "We've done our research. Any family court would have concerns. Whereas Graham has a stable home, a fiancé ready to be a mother figure." "Caroline?" Graham turned to his mother. "You've discussed this with Caroline?" "Of course. She's very understanding, willing to embrace Liam as her own provided certain arrangements are made." The twist in my stomach told me exactly what kinds of arrangements she meant. I'd disappear, and they'd play happy family with my son. Caroline Duvall was everything I wasn't. Tall, blonde, wearing a coat that probably cost more than my yearly rent. She found me at the diner during my Tuesday lunch shift, sliding into a booth like she belonged there despite her obvious wealth. "Coffee?" I asked, because I needed this job and she was still technically a customer. "Just water, with lemon." She studied me with cool blue eyes. "You're prettier than I expected." I set down the water harder than necessary. "Can I get you anything else?" "Sit." It wasn't a request. "Your manager already approved your break." Of course she'd arranged that. These people arranged everything. I sat, acutely aware of the ketchup stain on my apron. "Graham's been different since that day," she said. "Distracted. He mentions the boy constantly." "Liam, his name is Liam." "Yes, Liam." She pulled out an envelope, thick with cash. Margaret's offer was insulting. 50,000? For a lifetime? I'm proposing something more reasonable. She pushed the envelope across the table. I didn't touch it. 200,000. Cash. No lawyers, no paperwork. You simply fade away, move to another state, start fresh. Graham forgets I get my wedding and you get a real future. And Liam will grow up without the complications of divided loyalty. One stable home instead of being pulled between two worlds. She leaned forward. Be honest, Jenna. Do you really want him spending half his time feeling inferior in our world? Watching other children have things you can't give him? That's its own kind of cruelty. Her words hit like physical blows because part of me had thought the same thing. Late at night, when Liam asked why some kids had daddies and he didn't, when he pretended not to want things we couldn't afford, hadn't I wondered if I was being selfish? He's happy, I said weakly. Is he? Or is he just good at protecting your feelings? Caroline sipped her water. Children are so perceptive. He probably doesn't tell you about the birthday parties he's not invited to because parents know you can't reciprocate. The play dates that don't happen because you're always working. Tears burned my eyes. You don't know anything about us. I know Graham's son deserves better than choosing between a struggling waitress and a father who can give him the world. Money isn't everything. Spoken like someone who's never had it. She stood, leaving the envelope on the table. The wedding is in 3 weeks. After that, this offer disappears. Graham will be my husband, and I protect what's mine. She left, her heels clicking on the linoleum. I stared at the envelope. $200,000. Enough to run. Enough to start over. Enough to give Liam a chance at normal. My manager appeared. Table 6 is waiting, Jenna. I shoved the envelope into my apron and went back to work, the weight of it burning against my stomach. That night, I watched Liam sleep on our pull-out couch, his dinosaur book clutched to his chest. He'd had another nightmare about the angry lady who'd yelled at Mommy. Margaret's voice carried even through closed doors. Was Caroline right? Was I being selfish, keeping him in this half-life? The call came at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. Liam was burning with fever, his little body shaking. The thermometer read 104. Mommy, he whimpered. My head hurts. I'd called 3 clinics. The free one was closed. The emergency room at the public hospital had a 6-hour wait. The private children's hospital wouldn't even discuss admission without insurance or a deposit I couldn't pay. I held him against me, using wet cloths to try to bring down his temperature, and did something I'd sworn I wouldn't. I called Graham. He answered on the second ring, alert despite the hour. Jenna? Liam's sick, really sick. I can't. The hospital's... I was crying, hating myself for it. I don't know what to do. Where are you? 20 minutes later, Graham's car pulled up outside our building. He took one look at Liam in my arms and lifted us both into the back seat. Presbyterian Children's Hospital, he told the driver. Fast. That's private. I know. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Sudden status and wealth opened doors I'd been banging on for hours. Liam was whisked into a private room hooked to an IV, examined by specialists who spoke to me like I mattered. Severe strep that's moved to scarlet fever, the doctor explained. Good thing you brought him in, another few hours. Graham's hand found mine, squeezing tight. We sat on either side of Liam's bed, watching him sleep as antibiotics dripped into his small arm. This shouldn't have happened, Graham said quietly. You should have called me sooner. I've been handling things alone for 6 years. But you're not alone anymore. He looked at me across our son's bed. Are you? I thought about Caroline's envelope, still hidden in my sock drawer, about Margaret's threats, about the wedding in 10 days. Your family can go to hell. The vehemence surprised us both. I missed 6 years, Jenna, 6 birthdays, first words, first steps. I won't miss anymore. Your fiancé is having her bachelorette party in Vegas right now? His smile was bitter. She didn't even ask why I couldn't make the rehearsal dinner planning. Just said it was better if I handled my situation now rather than later. Liam stirred, eyes fluttering open. Daddy, he said groggily, still feverish. You came? Graham's face crumpled. Yeah, buddy, I came. Don't leave, okay? Sometimes people leave. I'm not leaving. Graham's voice was fierce. Never again. I watched them, my boys with matching eyes, and felt something I'd kept locked away for 7 years crack open. The wedding was called off in spectacular fashion. Not because Graham made a measured, rational decision, though he would have, but because Liam, recovered and energetic, had innocently asked Caroline a question at what should have been the rehearsal dinner. Are you going to be my mommy now? The entire Fairchild Duval gathering had frozen. Caroline's face went through several expressions before settling on cold fury. No, she said clearly. I'm not anyone's mommy. But if you marry my daddy, your daddy was supposed to handle this situation. She stood, diamonds glittering. Clearly, he hasn't. The room erupted. Margaret demanding order. Senator Duvall threatening political consequences. Graham standing up, walking around the table and kneeling beside Liam. Hey, buddy, want to go get ice cream? But it's dinner time. Sometimes, Graham said, shooting a look at his mother. Ice cream for dinner is exactly what you need. We left together. Graham, Liam, and me. Walking out of that suffocating room full of people who saw my son as a problem to be managed. Behind us, I heard Margaret shriek about embarrassment, about ruined futures, about ungrateful sons. Graham drove us to a small ice cream shop in Brooklyn, far from the Manhattan glitter. Liam got chocolate with sprinkles, chattering about dinosaurs between bites. Graham and I sat across from him, not talking, just watching our son be a normal kid. I'm sorry, I said finally. For what? Ruining your life. Graham laughed, but it wasn't bitter. Jenna, I've spent 7 years building what I thought was a life. Corner office, 6-figure cases, engagement to the right woman. He watched Liam draw patterns in his melting ice cream. None of it felt as real as this moment. Your mother will destroy you. Let her try. He reached across the table, taking my hand. I've already called my lawyer. I'm leaving the firm, keeping only my personal clients. I can practice anywhere. Graham, do you remember that little town we used to talk about? The one in Vermont with the covered bridge? I remembered. We'd driven there one weekend junior year, planned a whole future we never got to live. It's still there, he continued. Still has that law office for sale on Main Street. Good schools, mountains where boys can run and play. You're serious? I've never been more serious. His thumb traced circles on my hand. I know I have no right to ask. I know I left, even if I didn't mean to. But Jenna, I loved you then, and seeing you with our son, I never stopped. Liam looked up, ice cream on his nose. Are you holding hands? Ms. Martinez says when grown-ups hold hands, it means they like each other. Ms. Martinez is very smart, Graham said. So you like my mommy? Very much. Liam considered this. Good. She needs someone to like her. She cries sometimes when she thinks I'm sleeping. My heart shattered. Graham's hand tightened on mine. Well, he said to Liam, I'm going to make sure she doesn't have reasons to cry anymore. Is that okay with you? Only if we can get a dog. Mommy says apartments don't allow dogs, but houses do. Then we'll get a house and a dog. Graham, I warned. But he was already pulling up real estate listings on his phone, showing Liam pictures of Vermont houses while our ice cream melted into soup. 1 year later, the morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows of our Vermont farmhouse, catching the dust motes that danced above the breakfast table. Liam was attempting to teach our golden retriever, Bronto, to shake hands, giggling when the dog offered the wrong paw. He's left-handed, like you, I said, flipping pancakes. Left pawed, Liam corrected. Mrs. Henderson says I should say pawed for dogs. Graham looked up from his coffee and the local paper. Mrs. Henderson knows everything, doesn't she? She's old. Old people know stuff. We shared a smile over Liam's head. Mrs. Henderson was maybe 40, but to a 7-year-old, that was ancient. Graham's small law office was doing well, handling local cases, helping neighbors. He came home for lunch most days, his suits replaced by khakis and polo shirts that made him look younger, happier. Birthday party planning committee meeting tonight, I reminded him. How could I forget? Liam's told me 12 times that Tommy's mom is bringing her famous brownies. 13 times, Liam said. And Katie's mom is bringing the good juice boxes, not the organic ones. I set down the pancakes, watching my boys dig in with identical enthusiasm. The morning light caught Graham's wedding ring. Simple gold. Nothing like the platinum monstrosity Caroline had chosen. We'd married quietly at the courthouse 6 months after moving here. Liam as our witness, bouncing with excitement. Mom called again, Graham said carefully. Oh, she wants to visit, for Liam's birthday. We'd had no contact with Margaret since the disastrous rehearsal dinner. Graham's father had sent a card at Christmas, but Margaret had maintained furious silence. What do you think? I asked. I think... He looked at Liam, who was feeding Bronto pancake pieces under the table. I think everyone deserves a second chance, but it's your call too. Before I could answer, Liam piped up. Is that the angry grandma? The one who made you cry? Kids heard everything. She's complicated, baby. Maybe she's not angry anymore. Mrs. Henderson says sometimes people need time to not be angry. From the mouths of babes. I caught Graham's eye and nodded slightly. She can come, but if she makes one comment, she won't. Graham's voice was firm. I've made that clear. After breakfast, we walked Liam to school together, Bronto pulling at his leash, trying to chase squirrels. Other parents waved, called out weekend plans. We'd found our place here, in this small town that didn't care about pedigrees or trust funds. At the school gate, Liam hugged us both, then ran off to join his friends. No more clinging, no more anxiety. He was just a happy kid with a dog and 2 parents who loved him. Coffee before you open the office? I asked. Always. We walked hand in hand to the local cafe, where Beth knew our order and asked about Liam's science project. Graham had a meeting with the Johnsons about their farm inheritance. I had my shift at the library, not because we needed the money, but because I loved being surrounded by books and children's laughter during story time. Jenna, Graham said suddenly, are you happy? I thought about our old life, the cramped apartment, the constant fear, the loneliness. Then I looked at this man who'd given up everything to build something real with us. Stupidly happy, I admitted. Good, because I was thinking, Liam might like a sibling. I choked on my coffee. Graham Fairchild, are you suggesting... I'm suggesting we give our son everything we didn't have, including a big, chaotic family. His grin was boyish, hopeful. What do you think? I thought about sleepless nights and diapers and doing it all over again. But this time, not alone. This time with Graham reading bedtime stories and warming bottles and being there for every moment. I think, I said slowly, that Liam would love being a big brother. Graham's kiss tasted like coffee and promises and home. Around us, our little town went about its morning routine, and I realized this was what I'd been looking for all along. Not the fairy tale I'd imagined at 20, but something better. A real life built on forgiveness and second chances and the patient love that comes from choosing each other every day. That evening, as I frosted dinosaur cupcakes for Liam's class while Graham helped with homework and Bronto snored by the fireplace, Liam asked the question again. Hey, Mom, Dad, when are you getting married? We laughed, showing him our rings. We're already married, buddy. Remember? You were there. No, I mean a real wedding, with cake and dancing and stuff. Katie's mom had one, and she got to throw flowers. Graham and I exchanged glances. We'd been so focused on building a life, we'd skipped the celebration. Would you like that? I asked. A wedding with cake and dancing? Only if I can bring Bronto. And if Tommy can come, and Mrs. Henderson, and... As Liam listed half the town, Graham pulled me close. What do you think? Want to marry me again? This time with dinosaur cake? I looked around our messy, perfect kitchen, so different from that cold conference room where we'd found each other again, and nodded. Yeah, I think I do. Liam cheered, Bronto barked, and Graham spun me around, flour flying everywhere. Outside, Vermont snow began to fall, blanketing our little world in white. This wasn't the life I'd planned. It was better. It was real. It was ours. And it was just beginning.